8 men rode into canyons. I dug 7 graves. The men you seek think you are dead. Better to stay that way.
You want me to wear a mask?
Justice is what a man must take for himself.
Hi-ho! Bullshit! Yes, I was just going to say hi-ho because this is a whole other movie right here, man. Sitting up here trying to put a cowboy hat on Pirates of the Caribbean and pass that shit off. Who the hell y'all fooling?
Yeah, it's like the Lone Ranger of the Caribbean. Didn't I just see this like 4 times?
Yeah, you did. Just because you slapped some crow makeup on Johnny Depp trying to call him Tano, you ain't fooling nobody, man.
I thought he was just a fan of black metal. But
Yeah, no, he's still playing that damn.
We said that
Captain
Jack Sparrow wig.
What's that?
He said he still had his Jack Sparrow wig laying around.
Yeah, sitting up here putting some makeup on his ass. He's Jack Sparrow, man. Trying to talk about you Tonto. Get the hell on out of here.
I just love when Johnny Depp is the only actor I know who will go out of his way to find something to jump on and do a tandem across anything that he can find.
Yeah.
Just so that motherfucker loves to swing.
Doing them same Jack Sparrow moves too. Putting his hands up and letting his cuffs catch on something. Going on, what you said, 360?
Yeah.
Landing on some shit again. Yeah,
Nobody told him that you're not supposed to be the star of this film. It's called The Lone Ranger, not Tonto and that other guy.
Well, you can't put it on Johnny Depp. That's just what the script was.
Yeah, no, I can't.
You know, it ain't like Armie Hammer was stepping up to go like, "Hey, this is my movie."
True.
Yeah. He was not stepping up at all. I was like, did he read the script and just said, "Fuck it, I'll just take the money and run." You know, I'll get on that stupid white horse that they got me riding on and haul ass when this is all over with.
No, it's very carefully calculated in order to take the most popular parts out of the Pirates of the Caribbean film and make it Western instead. How could it fail?
Well, make it 2.5 hours long.
Was it only 2.5 hours?
I know. It felt long.
I know. It did feel like it was much
way
longer.
Yeah. You know what they did here was they said, all right, you know what? Let's do an origin story for the Lone Ranger. Everybody loves those origin stories. I mean, it works for superheroes.
And everybody loves the Lone Ranger, right, guys?
You know what? That's the thing. Most of you guys don't even don't know what the Lone Ranger is or care. But watching this, I was like, man, it's like Skynet is real. But instead of sending back robots, they send a robot back to kill me. But they saw me as a kid enjoying Superman and the Lone Ranger. He was like, oh, I know. Instead of killing him, we'll just come to the future and skull fuck his heroes.
I thought they just keep bringing back all of Leon's dad's heroes. It's like nobody cares about those
Leon's
guys.
heroes.
Leon's dad's heroes are like Charles Dickens' characters.
I thought Leon would be happy.
I thought it was like God and Zeus and all that
I
shit.
know. I thought Leon would be happy to see this because he was wondering what a live action movie would be like when he used to listen to it on the radio back in the day.
I mean, y'all joking, but I used to watch the Lone Ranger TV show all the time. Every Saturday.
That's your fault.
I loved it.
Actually, you know what? I used to watch it with my dad.
Okay.
I think seriously, when it was on the radio, it lasted for about, 9-8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
On television, how long did it go? Like about 5 years, something?
It might even have been long. I mean, so long that Clayton Moore, when the show was over, he wouldn't take that costume off.
What?
Oh, no. Like the show was ended. It was canceled, but he kept wearing the costume, going around to, opening supermarkets, appearing places to where they had to sue him to make him, to put an injunction on him to where he could not legally wear that mask anymore.
Yeah, his last movie was Bubba Hotep, when he guest starred in that.
You know what?
He just went around wearing dark sunglasses, because he wasn't legally allowed to wear the mask.
I thought you were saying they had to sue him to keep him from coming to the grocery store. Man, when you go home, we don't need the Lone Ranger today.
No, they would be like, you got to stop doing that.
He's like, I'm just picking up some Coors Light.
I know.
Oh my God.
Hi-ho, cream corn. Will you get your ass on out here, please? But man, this is an origin story. They said, something. It works for superheroes, but this is a cowboy movie, and it is a repeat of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. What you have here, Armie Hammer is the Lone Ranger. You get to see him before he became a Lone Ranger, back when he was, a law-abiding man. He did everything by the book.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Then he meets this crazy-ass Indian, or even crazier villain, and he's riding out with some Rangers, and one of his Rangers is a brother, and the villains shoot all the Rangers out there. Tonto brings him back from the dead, but all the other Rangers are gone. So he says, you know what? I am the Lone Ranger, and I got to get vengeance on my brother and bring justice to this Wild West.
For my brother.
On the brother.
For my brother.
The brother's already dead.
Yeah.
Like he's kicking his corpse through the
I'm sorry, vengeance for his brother.
This ain't Jonah Hex.
It's not Weekend at Bernie's either.
But it's, man, I don't know what to tell you about this, except that if you've seen the Pirates of the Caribbean, I don't care if this is a train and they got a boat in that movie. It's the same thing. I mean, it's
Same beats.
yeah, it's a
Caribbean film.
yeah, they go through the same thing. I mean, you have one action sequence, set pieces trying to top the other one. They forget the law of physics. Story gets lost in the middle of some, and when I say it's like the Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm not talking about the first one. I even like the second one. But when you get to, and I know the second one is debatable, but when you definitely get to the third one.
It's more like the third one.
Yeah, it is.
Because I could say with Pirates of the Caribbean, I was looking forward to it. I was like, based on a Disney ride, whatever. And it was like, wow, that was a surprise. That was a fun movie. And I was caught up in the story. I wanted to know what was going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
It had those surprises. And at times when it broke the laws of physics, it more like it bent them. Or by the time it did break them, it's like, man, it's so much fun. I don't care.
Well, it's a series after 4 of them. You see the formula there.
Yes,
I mean, you
yeah.
can't, even when you go back to seeing the first Caribbean, you'll probably be scratching your head going, wait, is this the second or third movie? I can't remember.
Well, part of the problem there is that jumps right into sort of fully realized characters that get thrown immediately into the action. Here, literally like 7/8 or something of this film is Armie Hammer still trying to decide whether or not he wants to fire his gun.
Yeah, he doesn't really fully even become the Lone Ranger proper until the last 20 minutes of this 2 hours and 30-minute movie.
And you're being nice there, because even at that point, I was like, I don't know if I can still believe this guy being the Lone Ranger. I don't care how many times they keep playing the damn Lone Ranger theme song. It's still not convincing me that this guy has earned this mantle of the Lone Ranger.
Well, you're right. I like this movie commits so many unforgivable sins. And to me, one of the biggest is when you go to see a movie with your superhero, you want to see it because this guy is really good at something and you admire that. Like, I want to see him be a badass or do that thing he does. And here, he is a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Up until for 2 hours, at least 2 hours of this movie.
I'm just
he's
amazed.
just completely incompetent. It's like, this is not fun. I mean, maybe at first when he's learning, but he ain't even learning.
I'm amazed that offended you as opposed to Johnny Depp pretending to be an Indian.
I'm not an Indian, so I don't give a
Now, if he was trying to be,
you know what? You let Adam Beach fight that.
yeah, now if he was in blackface, we'd have a problem.
That'd be a huge problem.
The Native American community has spoken out about it, going, look, we're not like wildly offended, but it does call attention to the problem. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, 1/8 Native American, just don't cut it.
Is
And
that what
if
he
they-
is?
Yeah, and if they did this with a guy who was a black character, they would set Hollywood on fire.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah,
There'd be no
Leon, I
Hollywood
would be
right
there with
now.
the matches.
Johnny Depp's reaction is like, well, I don't understand what everyone's upset about. We took this Native American character and made him where he was the more competent one. He's really gets more screen
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I think you're
You're
missing the
not
point.
hearing
Yeah, everybody in this room is 1/8 Indians. You know what I mean? Everybody got some Indian in them.
I've had a
Shut the
little
hell up.
Indian.
but here that's the problem is that they're trying to make a comedy they're also trying to make a drama. They're also trying to make a supernatural film. They're also trying to make a real Western. This movie doesn't know what it wants to be. There was a time when they were actually writing a script for this. This was when they were still shooting Prince of Persia. They want to make this just an outright supernatural movie. They were going to have werewolves and shit in there.
Well, he does fire silver bullets. That would make sense.
See, maybe
I
they were
was
thinking
hoping
that.
there was going to be werewolves. I was like,
And for a little bit,
on.
when they started talking about the Wendigo, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe they'll roll werewolves
William-
into this.
yeah. William Fichtner-
Roll werewolves into this.
William
and it
Fichtner
could work.
does have a werewolfy thing going on, to be fair, but still.
And you know, it's funny because to look at him, the makeup on him, and so much of it is like one thing positive I could say about this is like, okay, it's clearly Gore Verbinski because it had very much the look of Rango to it. That attention to detail and with the way the characters look, just grungy. I was like, all right, if nothing else, I do appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because everybody said, you know why this will work? I mean, nobody's looking for a Lone Ranger movie. Nobody's asking for it. But hey, you know that Rango was pretty good, and Gore Verbinski, he's working on that. Hey, he made something out of a ride at Disney World. Why not try to do something with the Lone Ranger? But as they make this movie, it just never meets anywhere. They try all these elements, and they don't come together. There's some parts in here where it is kind of supernatural, but then there are the other parts where it's got its foot firmly planted in reality.
Yeah, this movie couldn't find its voice. It really couldn't. I mean, like, this movie's been through so much production hell. And I mean, I'm sure if you go to Wikipedia, you can read all about it. But I mean, watching it, you can kind of tell just the way it was edited and just how, they really didn't know what they wanted to do with this character or how to set the tone for this movie. I mean, at the very beginning, it very much feels like you're going to be introduced back to that world of Rango. But that world simply just disappears after a while.
Yeah.
Because all these other elements, the whole comedic aspect where, it's interesting hearing people go, about these action movies now, especially these superhero type action movies, is how, why does everything have to be dark? Why can't it be a little bit more lighthearted? And I was like, well, there seems to me like a drastic, when you want to take that lighthearted route, some directors taken the more drastic route. This was one of those examples of them trying to do something lighthearted where it ended up just becoming silly. And it kind of underscored what they were trying to do with this character. Cause I was like, you know what? You're introducing this whole Wild West scenario. You're even introducing like music that I've heard in great westerns, like Ennio Morricone, Once Upon a Time in America, in the West. Once Upon a Time in the West. That really does set the tone of a gritty, almost dark western. Yet all of a sudden it becomes a fun Pirates of the Caribbean film where even the characters themselves are so silly that you really don't get a sense of any kind of danger in this movie.
You can't attach yourself. The weird thing is, it has so many tonal shifts as you're talking about. It starts off very dark, like when the Rangers are ambushed and executed, especially the killing of his brother, Dan Reed. Mm-hmm. I'm like, damn, that's harsh.
Yeah.
They show cannibalism in this movie.
Out and eat it.
Yeah.
You're like, seriously, this is in the same movie?
Right.
Okay.
But then by the end, it's a straight up Buster Keaton movie.
Yeah.
Like Johnny Depp must have said, like, look, if we got trains, you know how I am about Buster Keaton.
They did,
let me have
exactly.
this.
You know what what they didn't know how to do is this is a movie that's introducing dark elements, and if they wanted to make a comedy, they could have made a dark comedy, but because it's a big summer blockbuster, they got to play it safe, and they can't go through with some of the things that they laid out. At least that's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because whenever it seems like it is a dark film in tone, except when they come back to who's supposed to be the biggest hero in the movie, the biggest fucking goofball in the movie is a Lone Ranger just grinning and bumbling shit and knocking over shit.
He really is like the Clark Kent of this movie, because I mean, it's like, wow, when are we going to get to see this guy become Superman? But you don't.
Never.
You see Clark Kent put on a mask and that's it. He's still bumbling. Everything heroic that he does happens by accident or convenience. Or Tonto, once again, I was like, wow, I'm having flashbacks of the Green Hornet watching
totally.
how they play these characters up, where obviously Tonto is the more competent one, yet he's the guy who's making things happen, unlike the Lone Ranger.
Eyes cut by the bullets that killed him. From the great beyond, he will protect you and the ones you love.
You want me to wear a mask?
The men you seek think you are dead, Kimosabe. Better to stay that way.
Where I'm like, no, this is the Lone Ranger. I'm not here to see the damn Green Hornet. I'm here to see why this guy is a hero, why our dads, really dug this character. I wanted to see that, and I never got that.
Well, I thought it was a really weak excuse to bring the magic and supernatural angle into this to get away with big, stupid things in it. I mean, really, it's like a Deus Ex Equinis, really, with this magic horse that keeps saving his ass. And the fact that, like, there's this thing like, oh, well, you're a spirit walker and you cannot be killed, which the movie seems to be under the impression is actually true. Like, whenever he does fire his gun, even though he's never fired a gun in his life, he does
Super
the most
accurate.
amazing shots possible because God wants him to be this great hero. Okay, that would be fine in a certain kind of movie, but this is just one part of a movie that's all over the place. I feel like with the bookended, unreliable narrator sequence that they have in this movie, where it's a little kid much later, 1930s, going to like a Western sideshow thing, and an old ass Tonto's in there who tells him this whole story. And it's presumed is lying at points and exaggerating. Okay, fine. But I couldn't help but think after watching the rest of the film, they just added that shit on there after the fact to make up for the fact that nothing made sense.
That's all I thought about, because the way things jumped out of sequence, especially when, they're like, wait a minute, how did you do that? It seemed like That was like Warner or whoever put out this movie. That was like the executive producer going, okay, why did this happen? Because this other thing happened before. This doesn't make sense. Oh, don't worry, Kimosabe. It's just bad script writing, but this is how it really went.
Hey,
and then they changed it up.
Johnny Depp, you can stop doing that voice now.
You could see them really fix this production disaster. I'm sure that they honestly had on their hands with this whole sequence of trying to tell this origin.
Yeah.
Well, you don't fix it by making a movie almost 3 hours long.
Well, yeah, that's, I think, maybe what happened. They just, rather than just delete some shit that didn't make sense, like, we'll just keep adding until it seems to make some sort of sense.
And they're not going to delete it because, that shit cost a lot of fucking money. And they're going to make sure it's all on the screen. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm asking for too much realism in this. From the very beginning, the tone that was set bad for me is when Armie Hammer, before he is the Lone Ranger, and Tonto, they're on a train, and that train tosses their ass across the state.
Oh yeah.
And now
They land in Kansas.
I mean, they got slammed on the ground. Now I can kind of let Armie Hammer have it because he gets up, he's wearing a suit, maybe
that protected him.
Maybe he's got on about
some old West Kevlar.
Yeah, he's got on three layers of clothes. I think
cowhide
suits back then were made out of cowhide or something. Yeah, but I'm sorry, Tonto ain't got nothing on. He don't even have a scrape or anything. He gets up.
It was definitely one of those magical, horrible movie moments like Indiana Jones in the refrigerator scene.
Yeah, and it's a shame because the film has sequences that start being a lot of fun, like the big train elaborate sequence at the end is fun, but then it'll do shit like have Tonto jump like 60, 70 feet down onto a train car filled with giant rocks of silver, dust himself off and keep going.
Hey man, you guys, you let it slide with Fast and Furious. We'll start calling bullshit now.
But we knew that was stupid. We didn't know that about this movie.
We went into that going, that movie starts out by going, with having Vin Diesel sit down, hello and welcome to Fast and the Furious.
We've had more
Just
than 5 movies.
That this is going to be incredibly stupid, but we hope you'll go with us.
That ending was made out of rubber or something. And you know what? You're right. What is it? I mean, because that's a good question. What is it about something like the Lone Ranger that we got to sit up here and criticize it for doing that, but we let something like the Fast and Furious slide?
Well, because we've seen all the Fast and Furious movies, we know that is the world it sets up. We know how ridiculous it is, and it's one of those movies where you're either in that world or you're not. As soon as you buy your ticket.
I would say I don't let it slide with the Fast and Furious. It really bothered me to where I didn't like this last movie. However, the reason to let it slide in those movies is that, you come to the 5th movie, 6th movie, you know these characters. You already love them. This is the first movie. It's out there. It's got to prove itself. And it right off the bat lets you, it becomes clear early on, much like the Green Hornet, as Cole's brought up. This is made by people who not only didn't love this property to begin with, they might not have watched it. It's almost like somebody got a sign like, hey, we got a Lone Ranger movie to make and it's your turn. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, shit. All right. I'll do something.
And I guess the Fast and the Furious movies, like we keep saying tone, but I guess they set up that tone. They're consistent with it.
Oh yeah, they are. Well, they've always been.
They're the driving equivalent of James Bond's, like during the Roger Moore era, Pierce Brosnan. People were going there to see a specific type of goofiness, and it delivered in spades exactly what you came for. This, like you said, Leon, this has got to prove itself still. It needs a Dr. No, and it doesn't have it. It just has a no, don't go see this movie.
And the fact that it's Gore Verbinski, I think that's even more kind of tragic as far as like the movie that we should have gotten with this, where you look at Rango, and Rango was just incredible. I was like, Rango should have been his one and only homage to the old school westerns of like Sergio Leone, because that hit every mark, every beat that those movies that you enjoyed, that you really loved. He got the heart of what those movies were, and he did it in an animation style that was something we've never really seen before, ever.
And it was a relatively simple story.
And it was completely simple. This was just a mess. I mean, it was
over convoluted plot, too many villains. Yeah. It's like, come on, guys, just get to the fucking point.
And it's also one of these things where, like, you see a movie like this, and when the minute Tom Wilkinson shows up, you know what's up.
Yeah.
This is like, all right, I guess Max von Sydow was busy.
And that's another thing. There's Tom Wilkinson supposed to be a villain in here, and he don't do a fucking thing. Through the whole movie, all he does is twirl and watch like, do something, man. But
he's paid to be Tom Wilkinson.
Yeah, but I will say, William Fichtner. that's a guy that actually did seem kind of scary.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, up to a point.
Yeah, we were introduced to him early in the movie, and he's the kind of cowboy villain we want. He's greasy, got ratty hair. He took Jonah Hex's lips. You know?
No,
I was like, he should have been Jonah Hex.
I know. And he looked like one of those characters in Rango with the teeth all missing and a hair lip.
Got dirt all over him and took a bath in about 5 years. It's
Like a train ran over his face.
yeah, pretty much. And they don't really do anything with that character too much.
In the beginning, they do.
Yeah,
he's very scary at
he's
first.
a great villain, and then when it eventually plays out, it's, oh, by the way, he's just a minor villain.
Yeah,
And that's due to all the script rewrites, probably. But I mean, you know, with a movie like this, I will say this though. I did have some fun with it, and I have to give credit to Johnny Depp because he was the only one really keeping my interest throughout this entire movie. Despite the fact that he is playing an Indian, yeah, it's ridiculous, but it seemed like, you know, just whenever he was on the screen was the only time I was really paying attention to anything.
He has lots of moments. Despite everything else that's going on, he manages to have lots of fun moments.
I hate the fact that you're absolutely right. You're watching him and you're like, and then you feel bad for laughing all of a sudden because A, he's just playing Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
And then B, you're like, you shouldn't be doing this at all.
I know. He stole a real Indian out there who's been trying to make it in the movie business. He stole his job.
Yeah, exactly.
So Adam Beach is going like, oh man, come on.
But you know, it's almost like it's an evil business decision that they were almost forced to make because Johnny Depp's gonna sell the movie.
Period. Yeah, you're right.
And he can't play the Lone Ranger.
Hell no.
Little Bear out there is not going to sell tickets.
You know what? Actually, as goofy as this fucking Lone Ranger
Well, I
was,
guess
I guess
that's
he
true.
could have all that fucking, because that's what he's doing again. I mean, I like Johnny Depp in this. I even like that they made it more of Tonto's story. I guess that's why they thought that we could do this.
Joe Lansdale, when he wrote the Lone Ranger, he did that. He made it more where Tonto was the brains of the operation. He didn't make the Lone Ranger
And that's what-
incompetent.
yeah.
But you just more like, well, Tonto is really, you know, he's been out here. He knows what's going on.
And that's what works in this movie is that Tonto, you're right, he's the one. They make him the reason why, as Cyrus said, they have him book in the movie and you know he starts out the movie in what is it like 1933 yeah in San Francisco, and he starts telling the stories because he was the most competent person around.
He's the Kato.
But even though he's playing the shit, doing that, I'm tired of that kooky shit, man. Where his eyes get real big and he got to look back and
He's just mugging.
Just mugging, just lift that top lip, and he's all, and every now and then he's still got that scream, you know, Johnny Depp scream, ah!
Oh wait,
Listen
sure
to
that's
it.
not Pee Wee Herman?
No, yeah, he stole that from Pee Wee Herman. Listen to it in Rango and Pirates of the Caribbean. Ah! He does the same thing, man. I'm getting he does it here too. I'm getting tired of that shit, but I did like him. I even like him and Armie Hammer together, man. I think that if they had been a movie that fit what they were trying to do, if they had made this a more of a comedy, if he had been telling the story of a guy that was incompetent and he was the one that was doing everything, but his story was never told.
Sure.
Kind of like real Indians.
What you mean, like what the movie was?
Like you watch any like old martial arts film, they'll start out incompetent, but 30 minutes into the movie, they get their whole training sequence, and then they're a badass. Again.
But it might have been cool.
You don't have to wait the whole movie for him to have.
Yeah, you want to see that. Yeah, he started out where he doesn't know what he's doing, but he learns, and then he becomes a badass.
And sometimes that happens with, during a tragic moment in the film, almost, you know, where he has to be like, there's a part of him that has to be destroyed. That innocence about him that has to be destroyed, and he arises as someone else. I mean, as an actual guy who, you know, needs to be a badass in the Wild West.
Yeah, and if they had compressed this into a reasonable length of that happening instead of stretching out across the whole movie, you might have actually had something.
You would have had something like a Jackie Chan comedy or something.
Well, he's like so prissy, you know. He's like the guy in any other given Western who's like the bank teller guy or something. Who's like the one guy who loves all the technology coming into Wild West town, who gets his hat shot off and goes screeching back into the back of the store facade.
Go back and drink your cow milk.
I mean, they were just this close to might as well got George Hamilton and made it Lone Ranger, the gay blade.
Yeah, exactly. Which is that's a great point.
I'm telling you, Lone Ranger don't do a fucking thing in this movie.
No,
nothing. He's a non-character. Everybody talking about how good Armie Hammer is, the guy can act. But if this had been the first movie I'd seen from him,
I wouldn't have thought so.
I'd be like, who the fuck is this guy?
I really wish they kind of went in that Sergio Leone kind of route. And make it dark. I know that's not popular anymore, especially amongst superhero movies. Oh, why does it have to be so dark?
It can be.
Why can't we put humor in it? But I mean, this is a movie that needed that, because you know what? When you watch that old ass TV show, I mean, I'm sure you'll be laughing at some parts just because it is kind of a dated character. Something needs to you know, something needs to, I don't know. It's the Wild West. When you think about the Wild West, you don't think about people making jokes and, you know, swinging from train to train and having their horse galloping along a moving train, and all of a sudden the laws of physics don't matter. I definitely think if they took a darker route, especially with the tone of Rango, they really could have had something on here to where they could have made the Lone Ranger a badass.
There's that point in the film where you're waiting the whole time. You forget about the William Tell overture. Like, you forget that's a signature theme. And by the time the movie goes, we're going to play it nonstop for 10 minutes. You're like, the first thing that occurred to me was, wow, I don't think you can make a Lone Ranger film and make it good at this point in time. I think that maybe it was hubris to even try now.
No, I remember you saying that, and I disagree. I think it can be done. You know, they made a good Sherlock Holmes movie. They can take
one good Sherlock
Yeah,
Holmes.
but Sherlock Holmes
okay,
doesn't
cool,
have
fine.
like an Indian sidekick either. So
He's got a sidekick.
Yeah, he's got a
Yeah,
sidekick.
he
well,
does.
yeah, but he's like more than a sidekick.
Well, so is Tonto.
But no, but never mind. It's the Indian.
You on your own here, brother.
It's the
That's
Indian
another-
thing that's uncomfortable at this point.
That is an interesting point in you bringing up Sherlock Holmes, though, because I mean, I can see them going, look, Sherlock Holmes did it, you know, what the Green Hornet attempted to do it. So why can't we add in that type of
Interesting
humor
bit of trivia.
to this?
The Green Hornet is the great nephew of the Lone Ranger.
What?
Blew your mind, didn't I? It's true.
He lying. He don't know. He make that shit up.
I gotta
Are
Google
they
that
the
shit.
same
I got Wikipedia.
person?
that.
Yeah, I'm about to say we're gonna look at this. We're gonna look this
Okay,
shit
you're
up
gonna
later.
look it up and see that I'm right.
Don't believe me. You make me look silly. I'm looking silly right now at the 9.
So Corey, obviously you sounded like you loved it. What would you give it?
Oh, well, you know what, man? I don't hate it as much as I've been complaining about it. It's just I'm tired of this I'm tired of them doing this where this movie is really everything that I've been saying for a long time. Cause see, there's some things that I liked. It's not that I hate Armie Hammer in this. I think him and Johnny Depp, they could have had something really going here had this been a better script. I think they could have been good together. Had they made a comedy, a dark comedy or whatever. I don't think he would have been good for a serious movie, but I think he would have been good for what I was just previously talking about. I think they could have had something here with these two guys, but they didn't. My problem here is that it's like this. I've been saying for the longest time, all these blockbusters that we're seeing now, they're not products of the director. They're products of the studio. And Gore Verbinski, I mean, you look at this guy's work and you know that that's what it is. He was just hired to do Pirates of the Caribbean. So they said, we're going to put you on another blockbuster, but his non-blockbuster films, I mean, ones that are studio films, but not said to be, you know, these are big tentpole summer movies. They're all right. Mousetrap. I'm not the mouse. I knew I was going to do that. Mouse Hunt. What do you call it? The Ring.
Yeah.
Rango. I mean, the guy is a good filmmaker, but this is a bigger budgeted movie that was wrapped up in a bunch of studio decisions, and that's what you got. You got a confusing, mixed up, jumbled studio action film. And that's exactly what this is. You can't do this. You can't put a movie in here where a bunch of Rangers get viciously gunned down and one of them gets their heart eaten. And then about 30 minutes later, we see a horse up in a fucking tree wearing a top hat. You know, and that happens in this movie, people. Same movie, all right? This movie doesn't know what it's doing, doesn't know what it wants to be. It just knows that it has explosions, a big star in it, and a certain number of required action sequences. So I'm not giving it some bullshit, but I'm giving it a low rental.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on everything you're saying. It's one of these where I just hate when they take a property like this and they go like, look, nobody cares, so we'll just do whatever we want. And it's like, well, then make it something else. Because it's not even like people are going like, man, I love the Lone Ranger. I can't wait to see this. Because as co-host pointed out, then a whole lot of us still left alive.
People in a retirement home going, all right.
And it just sounds like on paper, hey, Pirates of the Caribbean meets Rango. Sure, sign me up. Oh shit, never mind. Let me go home. Johnny Depp has some moments, and that was what kept it fun, at least for a while. There's not enough of them. But man, I just can't get past the fact they made it 2.5 hours. I just think that's unforgivable. Give us a superhero who barely gets to do anything cool. Unforgivable. I want to go with you and say a low rental. But then when I think about, man, it's the Lone Ranger and it completely fucked him over. And I can't recommend this to anybody.
It hurts.
Yeah, it's a high some old bullshit.
No, it ain't. Some old bullshit.
Your rating is high.
You know, by saying it's a high some old bullshit, you're making it sound worse. Making it sound like that pile of bullshit is just that much higher.
It's a higher echelon.
So high I can see the good movie down the road.
I mean, I agree with most of the things you're saying. I don't think that I have as much emotional connection to the character. I mean, yeah, I used to watch the TV show when I was a kid. Even had a mask and like, the gun belt and all that stuff.
And you didn't have the emotional connection to the
really, but that's the thing is, I was really young.
Everybody else was dressed up like Batman. You coming out like a Lone Ranger.
That's when I got out of Lone Ranger when
Looks
I
like
discovered Batman.
when you got your ass beat.
Yeah, it looks like you're the villain again, Cyrus. But I'm the Lone Ranger. Exactly.
Hey, Zorro.
You got to remember, this is the early 70s. Kids were still dressing up like cowboys.
You're like, well, I was really young. I was still in the womb when I had on a cowboy hat.
It was every year the most popular kids' Halloween costume.
Yeah.
at that
I
point.
thought you were Deputy
So-
Dog, but
Shut up, Noah. But yeah, I mean, it just didn't come with me. It was one of those early things. When moved on to the next thing, never thought about it again. Never had that much connection years later. So I didn't go into this going like, you better not fuck up the Lone Ranger. I really didn't really care what they did as long as it was an entertaining film. And ultimately, there are entertaining moments in this. Like we've all said, Johnny Depp, reluctantly, we have to admit, is pretty damn funny at this in points. And there are action sequences in here that are clever, to a fault, but that go on too long. It's ultimately just too bloated, too long. It doesn't really know what it wants to be. And it even wastes the woman who plays the love interest.
She's on Luther, right?
Yeah, who is fantastic on Luther as sort of the Hannibal Lecter-ish female Hannibal Lecter character on there.
Oh, I was wondering where I'd seen that girl
well, the reason you
before.
didn't recognize her because she's got those ice cold blue eyes on Luther.
Ruth
Here.
Wilson.
Oh,
Ruth
okay.
Wilson, and here she's just all you can notice is her big overhanging lip.
Right.
never
Yo,
know.
you know what? I'm gonna throw this in. I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna give you this complaint.
Yeah.
What's her name? That fucking goth chick.
Which one?
Oh, Annette Bening?
Helena Bonham Carter.
Helena Bening.
Don't you think she was wasted?
Yeah, she's the most interesting woman in this film, and they have this really cool thing about her, this one quality, and then she's just this background character they just use.
Oh, just tell
as a
people, ain't no
gag.
secret. She got a fake leg with a gun on it.
Yeah,
She
but
was
it's
in-
cool. It's
Yeah.
a really cool fake leg.
Yeah.
And it's one of those like, oh, I expect they're going to do more with her. But even with Ruth Wilson, she's totally wasted.
In a 2.5 hour movie, they couldn't find stuff to do with either one of them.
Yeah.
They probably
I know.
did. She's probably the one that got the cutting room floor treatment.
And
I mean,
once again, even Armie Hammer, he's the titular star, and they couldn't find anything to do with him either. They're like, we don't know. Go back to Tonto.
I
Let
know,
him-
man. It's like you're not the Lone Ranger. You're just a mannequin in a suit.
Yeah. But I think
You're
still-
Cyrus.
Will you please be quiet? At least I'm a man in a suit.
That's debatable.
But no, I liked it a little bit more than you guys did, but still, it's hard to recommend. I'd give this a high rental. Okay.
Well, I guess if you're going to say something nice about this movie, I guess you can say, well, at least it's a little bit better than the movie that they put out in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
Legend of the Lone Ranger.
The Legend of the Lone Ranger that still has not seen the light of day on DVD or Blu-ray.
Are you serious?
Or not even VHS probably. Yeah. Yeah, no, they buried that shit just as quickly as they did the Lone Ranger in this movie at the beginning. But, yeah, I mean, man, yeah, you guys pretty much said it all. It's bloated. It's too damn long. The Lone Ranger character, you don't even know why he's the Lone Ranger at the end of the movie. Besides them playing the theme song to let you know, okay, this is the guy who you came to see.
With the William Tell overture.
Yeah, that playing that shit at the end of it, I was just like, really, I'm sorry, I'm not buying this.
Too little, too late.
It really was. Yeah, it's funny how.
Yeah, don't bring that shit in
Yeah,
here
you
now.
bring that shit, and we got like 5 more minutes of the movie to go.
I know. I was sitting there like, how dare you?
Yeah, I know. After 3 days of waiting for the Lone Ranger to appear. Yeah. No, man, but this is it is a rental because yes, once again, Johnny Depp. There's a reason why the guy's Johnny Depp. I mean, he can add his charm and it works, especially when he's being offensive and playing an Indian. I was like, wow, I would love to see this guy play Uncle Ben sometimes, and I will be there in the front row waiting to hear that.
So Leon and I.
Yeah.
When I gasoline in our matches.
Yeah, you're like,
Malcolm X,
who you
Martin
think you
Luther
are,
King.
Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah.
Let him play all the black guys. I think he's awesome. Yeah, but saying that, I have to give it a rental. Don't care about it.
I think know what? I would watch that movie.
Yeah, you bet you
The
would.
Uncle Ben movie, of course. Just the fact they made an Uncle Ben movie.
Starring Johnny Depp on the. I will buy the movie poster.
Come here, I want to buy some rice.
Yeah, have him swinging around with a bag of rice.
It was a ranger riding a white horse. Got some lunatic Indian with it. They come for you.